Welcome to Chautauqua People. My name is John V. Our guest today is Father James Daprile, who is the president of the Chautauqua House, the Chautauqua Catholic House. He hails from northeastern Ohio and has a substantial background here at Chautauqua. Father, how did you find your way to Chautauqua?
It was a kind of a curious and long journey. My ordaining bishop in Youngstown, Ohio, James Malone, was the youngest bishop at the Second Vatican Council in the 60s. And as he came out of that, one of the assignments that he had was to be part of the International Methodist and Catholic Dialogues. And over the years, because of his Methodist associations, was invited to be a chaplain here for a week in 1985. And he came back to the diocese and raved about the ecumenical spirit, the wonderful reception that he had received here in the fledgling Catholic community. And that just kind of stuck in the back of my mind for many, many years, until one year I was on sabbatical in Ireland and blew out my knee. And my orthopedic surgeon was a friend, and I said, "What do you do for the summer?" And he says, "Oh, I grew up in Chautauqua. I've been there going all my life with the kids." And he said, "Well, you know about the chaplaincy at the Catholic House." I said, "No, sorry." He said, "I'll get you an application." And the rest is history. I've been coming since '09 as a chaplain for a week at the Catholic House.
Did any of your family come to Chautauqua?
I've had a sister and a brother that has come to visit, but being here for a week, sometimes it's nice to get away and just fully engage in Chautauqua.
Mm-hmm. Now, what are your duties in your current mission at Chautauqua?
Well, I'm president of the Chautauqua Catholic community.
Right.
We have a board of 11 volunteers that oversee all the dynamics of the community. So I convene the meetings, concerned about the mission and vision of the Catholic House, and trying to be a Catholic presence here on the institutional grounds.
Mm-hmm. How many members are there in the Catholic House community, approximately?
We have over 900 folks on our mailing list.
Wow.
So people that have come here for a week, get our newsletter if they so desire. Some are longtime residents. I know the Catholic House is reasonably new on the Chautauqua grounds. Mm-hmm. We've only been in the house itself since 2004. So I think that makes us probably next to the youngest group with a house that's here. Although we've had a strong presence as a community since 1985, when the Catholics started to marginalize, especially after Bishop Malone's impetus to be more substantial in our presence and involvement in the ecumenical movement.
Now, there was a Malone in Buffalo. Is this the one?
No, this is completely
different person.
James Malone, from Youngstown.
Okay. Now, how long have Catholics been coming to Chautauqua?
From my understanding, the first Mass happened in 1895, but it was very short-lived. The institution of the Assembly offered the Buffalo Diocese property on the Brick Road, but nobody picked up on it. It really wasn't until the 1980s, after the Second Vatican Council, when Catholics were called to become more immersive in culture and in the designs and engagements of other Christians and other people of other faith traditions, to create more dialogue, more engagement, more prayer opportunities, that the Catholics here started to mobilize. And then it took a while for them to gather together, to organize, to raise money. Our house is a gift from Reg and Betty
Lene,
sorry. But the Catholics had to raise money for the renovation and an endowment for it. So it took a few years for all of that to happen. And we opened the doors for our first guests. We have 7 rooms that we rent in the house, plus a chapel, a room for our visiting chaplain, weekly chaplain, and we have a host couple that kind of manages the house in the course of the week.
Mm-hmm. If somebody wishes to stay in one of these rooms, how does one go about it?
Well, actually, just this year, I probably should put a date to this in case anybody hears it later on. In 2025, we are moving from a lottery system to an online system. So go to chautauquacatholics.org And you'll find a link that will open up in October of this year for reservations. It's open to all. We have a non-discriminatory policy. You have to be over 18.
That's all.
That's it.
Now, what kind of beverages are allowed in the house?
We're Catholics.
Okay.
So, and by Chautauqua policy, there's no restrictions on what you can have, except that no bottles, beer bottles or wine bottles or alcohol bottles on the table. So you can use your mug, use a glass, and whatever, and just keep the incriminating material out of sight.
Last week we had the Lutherans here, and they allow Lutheran beverages on their front porch. So,
Yes, they just celebrated their 100th anniversary.
Indeed.
Here, so.
Indeed. Now, so that there is a long tradition of Catholics at Chautauqua going
Correct.
back, but it really picked up after the Second Vatican Council.
Correct.
And are most of these folks now those who come and stay for a while, or are they 1 week? Or?
1 week rentals.
Okay.
And often part of our mission and our bylaws is to be a gateway experience into Chautauqua. So many of the folks that come to us, because our room rates are reasonable, they come experience Chautauqua and then want to come back again. So I think we play an important part in the whole Chautauqua experience, that getting people here that have heard about us, but for one reason or another, find Chautauqua pricey in a lot of regards. So this gives them a way in, and once they experience it, it seems that the money's not a concern anymore.
Got it. Now, how often is Mass celebrated?
We have Mass every day of the week. On the weekends, we have Mass on Saturday at the Hall of Philosophy, and a number of people really enjoy that because it's outdoors. In addition to a nice piano, the birds add a nice accompaniment and a little bit of harmony to our singing. On Sundays, we have Mass in the Hall of Christ. We used to have that before COVID, and then restrictions were in place for using institutions' facilities, so we're back in that area. And then during the week, Monday through Friday, we have a morning service at the Episcopal Chapel of the Good Shepherd. And we've kind of become partners with the Episcopalians here in a lot of ways. That in our early years here as a Catholic community, the roof of the Episcopal Chapel needed to be replaced at a tune of $61,000. A lot of money then.
Mm-hmm.
And happily, the Catholic House raised a little bit more than half of that amount. So they've been very gracious, and one of the wonderful things in their chapel, in addition to their stained glass windows that have other leaders in the Episcopal tradition like Bishop Tutu, they also have a stained glass window of Pope John the 23rd, who called the Second Vatican Council, who called for more openness and interconnection between faith traditions.
And that's very appropriate with that mix of stained glass windows for that building to be used by both.
And initially the Episcopalians used it for their Sunday worship and maybe once or twice during the week. Now they have a service every day as well as Catholics.
They do.
Uh-huh.
They do. My friend Doug May, whom you've met, has celebrated Mass in there.
Yeah.
And he did it sort of in Egyptian fashion, leading us all to a different tradition.
Yeah, the Coptic tradition, which is, and I think he did the Mass of the Liturgy of St. John Basil.
Got it. Well done, well done. Now, tell me a little bit how one becomes a Catholic priest, and what was your faith journey, and how you were prepared.
I'm not sure that I have a distinguished faith journey or anything all that unusual. I grew up in a very ordinary Catholic family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the oldest of 13 kids.
Whoa.
A good Italian family.
And where was your...
Oh, I'm number one.
Okay, you're number one, firstborn, and where did you grow up?
Youngstown, Ohio is my family home. So, and I have to admit that since the second grade, I had an inkling to serve the church. I admired the priests that served. They visited homes and families. There was one priest that was particularly concerned about the poor. I remember a story that just would have been the old days in the old Latin Mass, that when the priest had his back to us, that when the priest genuflected, you would be able to see the soles of his shoes, and there would be holes in it. And with our big family and not a whole lot of money, my dad took money to Father and said, we want you to buy a new pair of shoes. You're doing important things you're praying for our community. This is a sacred moment. And he said, thank you. My dad's name was Jim, too. He says, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate that. And he gave the money to the poor. And he still had Mass with the holes in his shoes. I admired that, the selflessness, the dedication that the men had at that time. But it was an environment, it was after the Second World War. My dad served in the war. Everybody, all the neighborhoods were booming with new families and lots of life. And from my 8th grade class, 5 of us went into the seminary, and 3 of us were ordained priests.
Wow. Wow. Now, you're ordained as a parish priest or as an order?
I'm an ordinary diocesan priest.
Got it. Got it. How long is the path to ordination from?
Well, when I went in high school. I went in for my last 2 years, junior, senior years of high school. Shortly after the close of high school, I did 4 years of college. Then I took an extra year for philosophy year. I was going to school in Cincinnati at St. Gregory's Seminary. The degree granting institution is called the Athenaeum of Ohio, not the Athenaeum that's on the Chautauqua grounds.
Right.
And then my master's was in conjunction with Xavier University in Cincinnati. Then 4 more years of theology at St. Mary's in Norwood. And so then I did parish work. I got involved as well in academia. I was doing a lot of adult education. I taught for Walsh University in North Canton. And in the midst of that, then I started working on my PhD when I was 40. I went to Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. And then I ended up teaching graduate students in the seminary in Cincinnati. And the last 20 years of my career was at in parishes in Youngstown, in the inner city, and ending up in a suburban area.
Now tell me about your dissertation work.
I had an unusual experience. I was always interested in the arts and culture. And what I wanted to do, no advisor on the Duquesne faculty wanted to undertake it. I wanted to do it on abstract expressionism and spirituality within that, which I thought there was a lot of movement in contemporary art and talking directly to our times. But a lot of people thought that was too amorphous. So I got pointed in the direction of dealing with Dorothy Day, who was the founder with Peter Morin of the Catholic Worker Movement out of New York City. I don't know whether you're familiar with
Go ahead,
Dorothy.
tell me more.
Dorothy is, she had a bohemian lifestyle beforehand for her conversion, a woman that had a child, also had an abortion. It was just a very crazy life, but she found blessings in wanting to use her social justice interest and her literary skills, journalistic skills, for the sake of advancing the social justice gospel that she discovered in the Catholic Church. She was baptized. She came from the Episcopal tradition, was baptized, and with Peter Morin, kind of a French brother, met up, who was also very concerned about social justice, started this movement of caring for the poor, caring for those who were in the breadlines in New York City, providing housing, soup kitchens, and trying to alert others to that movement. In a meeting in 1949 at Pendle Hill, which was a Chautauqua retreat, she met Fritz Eichenberg, who was a German Jew emigre, because he was doing satiric work about the Nazis in Germany and that whole activity. And they clicked. And Dorothy says, well, what could you do for the peace movement? And he says, well, I'm not a person that could work at a soup kitchen, but I can do art. So for 40 some years, he illustrated her monthly newspaper called The Catholic Worker, which she sold starting on May 1st, 1949, 1950, on Union Square for a penny a copy. And he started doing illustrations for her and for all these years. So my dissertation, this is a long movement about the founders, but I tried to take Dorothy Day's essays and Fritz Eichenberg's images and seeing how word and image are both incomplete, but you need a dialogue between the two to find something more, to find a fuller expression.
Now, we've had a few people who've earned PhDs at the table. How long did it take you to work on the dissertation?
Oh, more than they would like me to talk about. Because I was in full-time ministry and teaching at the same time, it between coursework and all, it took me about 10 years.
Okay,
And
but,
so-
but indeed,
I
you
was
ma-
doing it part-time, I was doing it in between other activities.
but you made it.
I made it, yeah.
You made it. And Duquesne is an absolutely fine university.
And had wonderful professors that were scholars in their own right, and very understanding of my situation. And as timetables started to creep in, they were they were understanding.
Yeah. Now, you talked about teaching at Walsh, and we'll get to that later. But tell me a little bit about Walsh as a university. What's its status?
When I was there, it was a small 1,500 student liberal arts college. They've almost tripled that number today, and have expanded into a variety of different degree granting opportunities. Mostly nursing, physical therapy, and business seems to be their primary areas. I taught in the philosophy theology department, and I loved it. I taught freshmen. I liked freshmen because they had still open minds. They weren't jaded by the system nor by trying to secure a major. So they still were open to asking questions and to be engaged in other things. Juniors and seniors later on were, they kind of were looking for an easy out to be able to get onto what they considered to be the real business of their lives.
So do you taught upper level courses to the juniors and seniors?
I occasionally taught seminars to that. Where I taught graduate level was when I taught in the seminary in Cincinnati.
Okay, tell me more about that.
I taught there for 6 years. It was a graduate school. At that point, it tracks up for both seminarians and for laymen and women that were looking for an MA in theology or an MDiv in theology. And again, I found the seminar experience, I found all my teaching experience that I think was probably more valuable for me than my students. They may not like to hear that, but when you read and listen and debate and engage, the experience is wide open, and I'm reading, I'm checking footnotes and discovering a lot of things that I didn't know beforehand, as well as trying to share with others and trying to engage their hearts and minds and spirits in topics that, at least in the seminary, you had to take to be ordained, whether they were of interest to you or not.
So the seminary students were seriously committed. This was not.
Yeah, I mean, it 4 years of seminary education, and in the midst of that, they had to make a decision after about 3 years.
Now, was foreign language a part of the seminary experience?
Early on in my career, yes. In my undergraduate degrees, I have a degree in classical language, Greek and Latin, and in philosophy.
Okay.
Master's in philosophy and a master's in biblical studies.
And so, indeed, you've mastered then the classical Greek.
Yeah, in classical, not contemporary Greek.
Yeah, that's a hard, from my perspective, that's a very hard.
Did you take Latin at all either?
As a undergraduate in high school, I took 2 years of Latin.
Okay.
And it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. I'm not one who has an easy time with foreign languages, but I'm glad I did. And now teaching psychology, we make the students use the correct plurals of word like cerebellum and cerebella to the plural and the like.
Yeah.
A singular is a datum, a plural are data. And if you speak about data, then you use a plural verb.
Yeah.
And some of them don't like this.
Yeah.
But at a Baptist University, I have a call to them and say, how many ever took a class in Latin? I hold my hand up and there's only one hand up in the classroom.
Yeah. Yesterday I was walking around the campus at Chautauqua and had the emblem of where I taught and where I went to school, and it had 4 words in Latin, and everybody would just stop and look at it, and I said, no, come on, these are easy words like aetate, proficere. Proficere, you can figure that out.
Yeah.
Proficient, you can go on with that.
Now, did you speak any Italian at home?
Sadly, no. No. Again, I'm not good with speaking languages. I can read a number of different languages for research, but never had the facility for a gilded tongue in Italian, is much to my regret.
And my father-in-law's first language was Italian, born in this country, didn't learn any English until going to school, but his kids are essentially English speakers.
Yeah,
A few words of Latin from a church background, and that's
Yeah.
it. That's it. So where do you see the Chautauqua Catholic community going, or changing gears here? And what, if you were to lay out a future, what's your best guess, and maybe where if you could manipulate things, where would you go?
Well, we work within the Department of Religion and their purview and programming in a way. I think for us to stay true to our mission is to invite others into the Chautauqua experience, which I think is holistic in a lot of ways. It's investigative, there's curiosity, there's the arts and beauty, all of which resonate within the Catholic tradition. And while we celebrate that in our seminar series, we have our chaplain as well as laymen and women speak on the breadth of Catholic issues, current and wisdom and political, all within that range. But so I would like us to be able to be hospitable, to still be inviting. I would like us to be able to share, the part of our tradition, but I'd like to do that within an inclusive fashion. I find that that's really hard. As much as we use this inclusion and diversity as language, we still are in our own little camps a little bit. So if I had any input, I would like to see us try to find measures in which there was a little bit more common ground, where we would not be doing programming or praying as separately as we do, but maybe trying to find more dialogues among the leaders and the boards, and try to create more of a common vision of what it means to be in this time and having these opportunities. I mean, I know many communities, they have ministerial groups and people talk, but it's a lot of just sharing, of problems or issues or, the things that happen. But I think Chautauqua could be a little bit more experimental.
Now, you mentioned your seminar series. You invited me to a seminar last Friday. Tell us about the seminar series.
This has been a long-standing activity of the Catholic House. The founders of the Catholic House wanted to make sure that the wisdom, the beauty, the breadth of was shared not only in our sacraments, in Mass and preaching, but also in our intellectual tradition, our sense of involvement, of what we bring in terms of value, an ethical stance, philosophical perspective that we could offer to enhance the human experience. And so we've always had two priests until last year be the seminar leaders. Last year and this year, we have invited others to come into it. So last year we had a scholar talk on Thomas Merton. We have Mark Wenzler this week talking about faith journey from social justice to climate justice. We have somebody speaking on imaginative prayer, but we also have somebody speaking about the crisis that Catholics are facing in a declining environment of religiosity. So we have people talking about mental health and spirituality. We have folks engaging for what they think is either related to the theme. We have people talking about, last week John Schmitz, who is the archivist at Chautauqua, talked about how Catholics kind of had a place and a contribution to the Chautauqua environment.
Now, when are the seminars held?
They're held on Thursday and Friday at 12:45 in the Methodist House Chapel, which is another wonderful exchange. Our house is small, so we have this wonderful relationship both with the Episcopal house and with the Methodist house to use one chapel for worship and the other chapel for wisdom.
That's a Chautauqua way, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I have to tell you, last Saturday, in terms of a Chautauqua way, I told the people at our Saturday Mass that our cantor wasn't able, cantor is one who leads the singing, wasn't able to be there, and we were stuck. So Rachel Stewart, who is the pastor of Holbert Methodist Church, she came to be our cantor. And I looked through her, she had her music book open, and I saw that she had the Te Deum, which is Latin for "To You, O God." It's a prayer of thanksgiving in Gregorian chant. And I said, Rachel, what are you going to do with this? She said, well, we're singing in the Motet Choir this week. I said, could you sing this before Mass today for all of us? And so here we are, the Methodist minister singing the Latin Te Deum, which was in all of our tradition before the Reformation. You realize that they would have been Methodists before they were Methodists, would have been singing this too. And so, but our piano player was Presbyterian with a Catholic priest from New Orleans, and people from all over the country in this experience. It only happens in Chautauqua.
Absolutely, and that's a wonderful thing. We've always said to folks, if you have any religious background, if you have none, go and try an experience outside of your background. And I've had so many Protestant friends who've went to the 12:30 Mass in the Hall of Philosophy after the big thing in the amphitheater, and said, wow, getting churched and re-churched on Sunday, that's a Chautauqua.
But people working together as
That's
well.
right.
And just like, you would expect Catholics to do Catholics, and the United Church of Christ to do their thing, and the disciples to do their thing. But no, there's that openness to, can we find common ground? Can we find a way in which we can pray together, taking the best of our traditions and bringing it all together.
And sharing them together. This has been tradition. This has been terrific. What else do we need to cover about the Catholic experience here?
Come and visit us. Come and share with us. Come sit on our front porch. Anybody's always welcome to come and chat, and and that's the beginning of wonder.
And I have a favorite time to visit the Catholic house, Tuesday afternoon at about 3:30. What's happening?
Well, we have our, as many other denominational houses, we have our social hour. And we try to put out something sweet, something savory, something fruit, something healthy. But in the midst of that, we want to meet you. We want to know your name. We want to have you share a little bit of your story. Want you to share in our hospitality, and maybe come back.
I can tell you from experience, it's well worth a visit if any viewers have questions about it. This has been so much fun. We're out of time, and I hope you'll come back.
Thank you, John. Thanks for inviting me.